Hey, ladies, it is Thursday's Food and Fitness, and I want to say thank you for joining me today. If you are in my Facebook group, thank you, and please comment below if you're here watching me live. Um, if you are not in the Facebook group and you're watching this from the Facebook page, feel free to join the group. If you're a woman over 45 and you're interested in nutrition, fitness, body image, getting healthy, getting motivated, then I'll put the link below for you to join the group. I go live every Thursday, or I would say most Thursdays at 3 o'clock Mountain Time, and talk about issues that are, I think, hopefully pertinent to all of us that are in midlife, whether you're in perimenopause, menopause, postmenopause. There's a lot of information out there about nutrition and exercise. And so I try as best I can to uh, kind of weed through all the garbage that's out there, and there's a lot of that, and provide you with science-based, practical, user-friendly information. So my name is Cindy Dallow, and again, thank you for joining. If you're watching, I'd love it if you'd comment below and say hello. I think I should be able to see your comments, so please do that. So today we're going to cover a topic that is, I guess, kind of a serious topic, you could say, but it's also one that you can make a lot of difference in by what you choose to eat. And of course, exercise, but we're going to focus mainly on nutrition today. And that topic is prediabetes, which I will explain here in a minute. I know everybody's heard of diabetes. Before we get started, there are two types of diabetes. There's actually three, but there are two main types. There's type 1 and type 2. And just a real quick review of what those are. Type 1 is mostly a genetic condition, usually occurs in childhood or adolescence, but can occur in adulthood. And it's what happens is our pancreas is not producing insulin at all. And so a person who has type 1 diabetes has to have insulin shots to be alive. They cannot live without getting external insulin. Type 2 diabetes is what used to be called adult onset diabetes because it happened in adulthood. And that's what most people have. Type 2 diabetes is far more common than type 1, and type 2 diabetes is the form that is affected by lifestyle. So today we're talking about type 2 diabetes, okay, not type 1. So if you have questions, feel free to ask them. I'm hoping I'm going to be able to see them here on StreamYard, and I'll answer them as best I can. Feel free to share any experiences or any comments or anything like that. I'd love to keep this more interactive. Unfortunately, Facebook doesn't have a way to make it really interactive where I could actually hear you, but this is the best that I could figure out how to do. So anyway, thank you for being there. Comment below. And so I did prepare a couple of slides. I know it's the academic in me. So I hope that you can see that. So anyway, so we're going to talk about nutrition for diabetes, as I mentioned. So basically, diabetes is when our blood glucose levels are too high. And when they are too high for too long, that can cause serious health conditions. And it is fairly common. 30.3 million adults, that's quite a lot of people in the US, have diabetes, which is about 9.4% of the population. And again, we're talking about type 2 diabetes, okay? Prediabetes, though, what is prediabetes? And your doctor may have told you, or a family member, that you're pre-diabetic, and you're thinking, what does that mean? So prediabetes is when your blood glucose levels are higher than normal, but not high enough to be diagnosed with diabetes. I just noticed that slide was cut off. I imported PowerPoint into Google, into StreamYard, and I think probably lost some formatting along the way. But Anyway, so a whole lot of people have prediabetes and a lot of them don't know it, because when blood sugars run high, but not super high for a long time, a lot of times there's no symptoms. It's kind of like high blood pressure in the sense that you can walk around with high blood sugar and not really realize it. And so that's one reason why it's really important, to see your doctor frequently so that you can uh, get your blood sugar taken. Okay. So how do you diagnose this? And again, talk with your healthcare provider. Lila. Hi, Lila. Thank you for saying hello. I'm so glad you're here. um, so anyway, there's the hemoglobin A1C test, which you may or may not have heard about. That test, it's a blood test, and it basically looks at how your blood sugars have been running for a couple of months. So it's actually a really good indicator of how high your blood sugar has been over maybe the last 3 to 4 months. And it's probably one of the most common tests that are run to see if you have diabetes or prediabetes. There's, of course, just a random fasting plasma glucose, which, if you get your blood taken for whatever reason and you're fasting, they usually look at your blood sugar and they know if you're not fasting, because occasionally we have, you get your blood taken and you weren't fasting. And if your blood sugar is higher than, let's say it's in the 120 to 130s, but you just ate, well, that's not bad. That's actually normal. But if your blood sugar is in the 120s and you're fasting, that can be a problem, or even 100 to 110. There's also what's called oral glucose tolerance tests. Those are a little bit more, they're not as common. They take a lot more time, but they are used to determine what your blood sugars are. And then, of course, if you have any symptoms, some symptoms of really high blood sugar is having to pee a lot, being very thirsty. So things like that. So what are the levels? So with prediabetes, fasting blood sugar, if it's between 100 and 125 is considered prediabetes, and that's fasting. The oral glucose tolerance test, the 2-hour values, 140 to 199. But again, that one, and I'm going to sneeze, of course, right, when I go live. Actually, okay, I'm good. So that one's not used as much, but the A1C is used fairly commonly. And if you have not had that done, I highly recommend that you get a hemoglobin A1C. Hey, Brenda, thanks for joining. So they've lowered also the range. The range, I don't know what year it was, but it's been within the last 5 years where they lowered the A1C range. So now it's 5.7 to 6.4%. So I think those numbers, the A1C test is something to remember. Of course, if you have your blood sugar tested, they'll have the range on the report that you get. So you don't have to memorize those, but in general, kind of know what those are. So diabetes would be a fasting blood sugar. Hi, Cindy, your friend in Kansas. I bet that's Melanie. I don't know. I have a lot of friends in Kansas. Anyway, a fasting blood sugar greater than 126, an A1C of greater than 6.5. Okay, so that's how you know if you have diabetes or prediabetes. So what are the risk factors? And there are several, one of which is not on this slide, and that is genetics. There does tend to be a genetic tendency toward having diabetes, okay? But I think we all, are aware that exercise and diet can greatly affect on whether we get diabetes or not. So for instance, the picture on the left of the people going up the escalator, what that's meaning is that we're pretty sedentary as a country now. If you look at the prevalence of sedentary living in 2022 compared to 1982, you'd see a huge, huge difference. We are much less active than we were even as recent as 1982. And why do you think that is? I wish I could hear your answers. Why are we more sedentary? I'll show you why. That's one reason. You're looking at a computer right now, and so am I. Personal computers were not around in 1982, and that just a lot of things were not as automated, and we were just more active. So there's been a really big increase in being sedentary, and exercise or lack thereof has a huge impact on whether we get diabetes or not. The picture in the lower right corner, our intake as a country of processed and fast foods has greatly increased. So, and the portion sizes. I mean, if those of you who are I'm 61, if you're in this group, you're over 45 if you're in my Facebook group. And you might remember back when, in the 70s, how small our serving sizes were. I remember when the quarter pounder came out, when McDonald's had the quarter pounder, we thought that was huge. Now go look at a quarter pounder and see how small that is. So our portion sizes have increased, and just the amount of fast food and processed food that we consume as a country in the United States has just exploded. So you have the two things together. We're less active, we're eating more calories, and then the calories that we're eating are not the greatest foods. Okay. I know that's not a shock. I know, but it is worth pointing out. So, what can you do? So, the good thing about prediabetes and type 2 diabetes is that it can pretty much be prevented, or at least delayed, or at least made much um, not as bad, if that makes sense. And all it comes down to is eating. And what it comes down to is nutrition and exercise. Those are two things that are within our control. And those are two things that can greatly impact your risk for diabetes. So we're going to talk a little bit about especially the nutrition part today. I am going to touch on the exercise because you know me, I love exercise and I have to talk about it any chance I get. So this says eat healthy, and I personally don't like the word eat healthy. I mean, to me that just sounds kind of boring. And I'm a dietitian, right? So I'm going to define what that means. Be active on a regular basis, and that I will never hedge on. And strength training. Some of you have heard some of my previous live sessions, and I talked about in a couple of them about some of the newer research on strength training or resistance training, basically weightlifting, and how that actually has a positive impact on blood sugar. And that's totally new research. Oh, the formatting is a little messed up again. Anyway, so why should we care? Why should we care if we have diabetes? So what if we have high blood sugar? Well, it is a big deal because diabetes like quadruples your risk for a heart attack or stroke, blindness, which we will come back to in a little bit, kidney disease, nervous system disease, amputation, and just shortened life. If you have type 2 diabetes that is not taken care of and managed, chances are you're not going to live as long as you would if you took care of it. Again, I'm just going to stop real quick and just say, if you have questions, please put them in the comments. If you're in my Facebook group, I think I'll see the comments here. If you're not in the Facebook group, please consider joining. I'd love to have you in. So nutrition does matter, okay, when it comes to diabetes. So I did a whole lot of reading and research. I knew a fair amount about type 2 diabetes anyway, but I always, it's that graduate student nerd in me. I like to kind of peruse the latest studies and find out, what is the latest research on nutrition and prediabetes. And basically, it's what we've all heard before, but maybe you haven't heard it as much. And that is the amount of fiber in your diet really matters. It matters for a lot of health conditions, but it really matters with blood sugar. And there have been, I don't know, hundreds of studies looking at the effect of fiber on blood sugar control. And it's amazing. It is truly amazing, the effect that high fiber foods have on blood sugar. So some of the benefits of a high fiber diet or just high fiber foods, the first one is better blood sugar control. So right now, if you are pre-diabetic or you have type 2 diabetes, one of the most important things you can do at each meal is make sure you have at least two good sources of fiber in that meal that will help to keep your blood sugar in control. Just doing that will help you keep your blood sugar in control. The other thing that fiber does is it helps our what's called the gut microbiome, and I've talked about that in some of the other live sessions. Our gut microbiome is it's a brand new area of research. A lot of stuff is coming out. It's exciting science, I think. um, and our gut microbiome affects so many things about our health. It affects our brain health. It affects um, our metabolic health to a big degree, and actually has some effect on our muscular health. And it has an impact on what kind of diseases that we might develop. So our gut microbiome is very important, and fiber is one of the most important things that you can do or consume, I should say, to have a healthy gut. And of course, you probably know it's a lower risk for some forms of cancer. Eating more fiber lowers your risk for heart disease because the foods that are high in fiber are also high in what are called polyphenols and antioxidants, which help to keep our heart cardiovascular system healthy. And then, of course, we all know fiber helps keep us regular. So you cannot go wrong with eating high fiber foods such as fruit, vegetables, whole grains. And when I say whole grains, that could be just whole wheat. It could be oats, barley. It could be quinoa is a big one. I eat a lot of quinoa. Millet. There's so many forms of whole grains, and I personally think we should eat more of those. That's a topic for another day. And legumes. So all the different types of beans, black beans, red beans, pinto beans, lentils, chickpeas. There's a bazillion recipes that you can, or that are out there that have high fiber foods. So, we all grow up knowing, oh, fiber helps keep us regular. And yeah, I know fiber is good for me. I don't think people realize like how good it is and how important it is for blood sugar control and all the other things that are listed right there. So stop right now and think about how much fiber you get in your diet. Do you get two good sources of fiber at each meal? Think about that. Okay. The other thing that we've learned in the last 10, 20 years when it comes to nutrition is that the amount of processing that food goes through matters in terms of our health. So, like the foods you see in this slide here, all the processed foods, our chips, crackers, um, frozen meals, frozen pizzas, all that kind of stuff that, we buy a lot of. Well, processed food is not good for our gut microbiome at all. And that right there is worth knowing. But it's also been shown that people who eat more processed food tend to eat less fiber, and then so they have worse blood sugar control. I don't think it's necessarily realistic to expect people to cut all of these foods out, but you definitely can reduce the frequency or the amount of processed food that you eat. I used to eat lots of crackers and processed foods, and gradually over the years, I've reduced it quite a bit. So it can be done. You know, it's no big deal. Have a handful of chips or, crackers and dip once in a while. But if you're eating these kinds of foods every day, that can be a problem. So what a lot of people do is they think, well, it's got to be one or the other. I've got either healthy or unhealthy. It's either good or bad. And they divide all these foods in their head into good and bad. And that's what I don't want you to do. I want you to realize that you can have both, but the more you can move more toward the right and include more fruits, vegetables, high fiber foods, whole grains, legumes. In fact, one thing I work with in our Women in Motion program, and any of my private clients, is I help them add high fiber foods and high antioxidant foods. Those are all anti-inflammatory foods. I help them add those to their daily diet first, and then gradually reduce some of the fast and processed foods. Um, so you can also make your own fast food. We grill burgers here all the time, whether you're using beef or turkey or Beyond Burgers, some of the plant-based burgers. You put on, onion, tomato, lettuce, whole grain bun, make your own fries, and you've got a really delicious quote unquote fast food meal. It's not really fast to make that, but you can still have a lot of your favorite foods. It just comes down to how you are making them. Okay? So I am not here to say don't ever eat processed foods. Don't ever eat sugar. Don't ever eat, fast food, because I think it's unrealistic. Some people do that. I personally eat very little of that, but it's taken me many years to get to this point, and I just have too many other types of foods that I like to eat. So it takes time, but it's worth doing. So let's look at what's called the balance plate. So what should your plate look like? Okay, so look at this plate here. You want to make half of your plate what's called a rainbow. Try to have several fruits and vegetables, different colors, whatever fruits and vegetables you like. Every meal I make, every meal I have, every meal I order anywhere, I always think, what fruit, I should say, or vegetable, it doesn't have to be both, um, will I get in this meal? Okay. And then the next thing you want to add are some whole grains. So that could be your brown rice. It could be quinoa. It could be, God, there's so many of them out there now. Even if it's starchy vegetables like potatoes, people think potatoes are so bad for you. Really, really are not. Sweet potatoes have more vitamin A and some more nutrients. But having some starchy vegetables or whole grains as part of your meal is a good idea. And one thing I do see a lot when I look at food logs, and I look at a lot of them, is people, they'll have just like vegetables and meat. I know that's kind of a trend, and maybe it's keto or whatever, but you're missing out on foods that have B vitamins and fiber and protein and other nutrients when you're not allowing yourself to have any grains or any whole grains. Okay. So then the next part of your plate should be protein, and that would be lean meat or plant-based protein. Or you can have both. Like, we do at our house, we eat some lean meat, we eat chicken and fish, but we have a lot of meatless meals as well. So you want to have at least 20 grams of protein on your plate if possible. And if you look at your plate, if that's about a quarter of your plate, then you're probably going to get the protein that you need. And then to round out your meal, if you are a milk drinker, I am a milk drinker, have a glass of milk. If you're not, you could have a milk substitute or just drink water. But try to cut back on the fried foods and the processed foods as much as you can. The more you can have the whole foods, you're going to get more nutrition, more fiber, more antioxidants, and all the good stuff that your body needs. And it will definitely help to prevent prediabetes. One thing you might want to do is consider tracking your food and your activity level. That's what we have the women in our Women in Motion program do, is log their food for a while so I can take a look at it. Kurt watches their physical activity and strength training, and so we provide that accountability. But I think even if you just want to do this on your own, there's a bazillion apps out there now for you to log your food intake. I'm not saying you should do it all the time. I don't even think that's a good idea to be doing it, all the time. But it is helpful to do it for like maybe a week or two and just kind of look back, go over it with a dietitian, myself, or I know several good dietitians. a lot of good dietitians, and they can help you look for inadequacies, nutrient inadequacies, or see where you can improve your diet. But you can't really know that if you don't log your food intake. Okay, real quickly about exercise. People I don't think, realize the connection between exercise and blood sugar control. I happen to believe that exercise actually has a slight edge over nutrition in terms of managing blood sugar. Um, Exercise can lower your blood glucose levels very quickly. Okay. And it helps to maintain your blood sugar level if you're active on a regular basis. Exercise also actually has changes at the cellular level in terms of how your cells utilize glucose and insulin. So it has a lot of effects. It can improve the body's ability to use insulin. Okay, help you to be more insulin sensitive, which is good. It reduces your insulin requirement. So if you do have type 2 diabetes and you are taking insulin right now, if you become physically active on a regular basis, you'll require less insulin. So basically better control of your diabetes. And then of course, it's going to help lower your risk of heart disease because, well, for one, if you're exercising, you're strengthening your cardiovascular system. But if you have better control of diabetes, of your blood sugar, then that means you're going to have a lower risk of having a heart attack. And I wanted to just throw this slide in here, even though I know it's doesn't look too exciting, but this is from a study that looked at the exercise frequency and the risk of diabetes. And if you look at the left, that tall purple bar represents people who don't exercise at all. And then you go to the next one. That's if they exercised once per week. The next one is 2 to 4 times per week. And the last one is 5 times per week. So you can see the risk of diabetes goes down with exercise frequency. Just exercise alone, even without a change in weight, even without a change in diet. Exercise has a very powerful effect on blood sugar control. But one thing I want to point out, if you look at the bars on the right, the one on the far right and second left to the right, they're not that different. So what that means is the difference between exercising 2 to 4 times per week and 5 times per week is not huge. And I think that's kind of good news for really busy people, that you can get a lot of bang for your buck exercising 2 to 4 times per week. 5 is probably a little better, but not that much better, if that makes sense. So I hope that was helpful. If you're interested in joining Women in Motion, I'll put the link below. And I would love to have you in the program. You'll get a personalized fitness program and all kinds of nutrition information and some other women that are in the program you can connect with. So it's kind of a cool thing. It's a 16-week program, and it's something that I'm very proud of. So I'm back. I hope that was helpful. Thank you for staying till the end and watching all the slides. But I hope that explained diabetes, and also I really wanted to drive home the point of how important fiber and just the quality of what you're eating, how important that is to prevent diabetes or even prevent prediabetes, as well as exercise. The two go hand in hand. So if you have questions, put them in the comments. I'd be happy to answer them. Or if you think of them later, you can still go back in and put them in the comments. I'd be happy to answer them. But I don't see any right now, so I am going to let you all go. And I will be here next Thursday at 3 p.m. Mountain Time, Food and Fitness. And if you are not in my Facebook group, I'll put the link down below on the Facebook page, and you can join if you're a woman over 45. Sorry, guys. And yeah, we can just go from there. Thank you. Somebody said thanks. Thank you. Good to see everybody. Well, I don't actually see you, but anyway, I hope that was helpful, and I will see you guys next week. Bye.